Words in the news from bbclearningenglish.com.
This vote means that Benjamin Netanyahu can now form a government, and one that might be more internationally acceptable with Labour than without. This will help Mr Netanyahu, especially in Washington, where Israeli officials privately worry that they face the most sceptical administration in decades. The Labour leader, Ehud Barak, said just before the vote that he would be a counterweight, not a fig leaf for Mr Netanyahu. As well as 5 ministerial portfolios, he also said he'd gained an agreement that the peace process would continue and that previous deals with the Palestinians would be honoured. His was an appeal to pragmatism rather than ideological purity. The risk for Mr Barak is that some Labour members will accuse him of putting personal ambition for office first and will opt to keep their principles unsullied, heading for the backbenches in the Knesset. The question is whether this historic force in Israeli politics will be permanently split after this vote. That will be something of a problem for Mr Netanyahu as well, since it may delay by a few more days the forming of his new government.
Words in the news from bbclearningenglish.com.
It seems many fans, some who had tickets but many without, were angry when the stadium gates were shut. The police tried to keep the crowds back with tear gas, but in the panic the supporters were crushed against a wall and struggled to escape to safety. The Ivoirian Sports Minister Dagobert Banzio says there seemed to be more people outside the stadium than in it.
Some spectators who didn't have tickets tried to force their way in. Unfortunately, they broke down one of the big gates, and in the stampede people were crushed.
Those people are now being dealt with in the city's hospitals. The government is promising an inquiry into what went wrong. Africa is no stranger to these kinds of incidents, but this is one of the most serious for several years. The National Football Association had told those without tickets to stay away, but thousands ignored that message, hoping to see Ivory Coast's Europe-based football stars. The big attraction was local hero Didier Drogba, who missed the previous round of qualifiers due to injury. He scored 2 goals in the 5-0 Ivorian victory, but that has now been overshadowed by what happened off the pitch.
Words in the news from bbclearningenglish.com.
The patient is a 23-year-old man from the province of Albacete in southeastern Spain. He arrived home from Mexico with a fever last Wednesday and was isolated in a hospital ward on Saturday night. Confirming the diagnosis of swine flu, Spain's health minister Trinidad Jimenez said the man was being treated in accordance with World Health Organization procedures and that his condition was not serious. A further 20 suspected cases are under investigation in Spain, in locations ranging from Madrid to Mallorca, Barcelona to the Basque Country. The patients concerned had all recently returned from Mexico. None of the cases is thought to be life-threatening. The minister said it was now an urgent priority for different regions of the country to share information. She stressed that Spain had sufficient supplies of antiviral medicines.
Words in the news from bbclearningenglish.com.
China has the biggest foreign exchange reserves in the world, totaling almost $2,000 billion. About 2/3 of this is estimated to be in US dollars, but China has been backing away from the dollar for a while. 3 years ago, Beijing broke the peg that linked its currency, the renminbi, and the dollar. Then, just before the London G20 summit earlier this month, China suggested that the time might have come for countries to reduce their reliance on the US dollar as a reserve currency. Nonetheless, about 2/3 of China's foreign exchange reserves is estimated still to be in dollars. But the Chinese move has given a small boost to the gold price, up $5.50 at $913 an ounce in London, and a big boost to those traditional investors who believe that gold is still the safest store of value. However, bullion market experts say China's gold holdings are
Words in the news from bbclearningenglish.com.
The religious authorities say they're responding to increasing irritation among more conservative Thai clerics and members of the public with behaviour perceived as effeminate. They're aiming to reduce or eliminate the wearing of makeup and tight robes by younger priests, and generally attitudes that suggest homosexual activity. Of all Asian countries, Thailand is perhaps the most tolerant of homosexuality, which is often open and flamboyant, but it's still considered largely incompatible with Buddhist priesthood, with its traditions of celibacy and self-discipline.
This is News About Britain from bbclearningenglish.com.
One of Britain's most popular reality TV programmes has returned to our screens for a fifth series. The Apprentice sees 16 ambitious individuals competing for a job with electronics tycoon Sir Alan Sugar. With endless talk of credit crunches, redundancies and cutbacks, it may come as no surprise that thousands of plucky hopefuls applied for the show. The chosen 16 will compete in a series of business tasks and do their best to escape elimination. Not one of them wants to hear the fateful words, "You're fired." It should also be noted that this year's budding apprentices are not going to be allowed to forget the grim economic climate quite so easily. At the launch of this year's TV show, Sir Alan announced that some episodes have been specifically made towards recognition of what difficult times we are in. The tasks will, as usual, be gruelling tests of business acumen, team working and leadership skill. They will also make for some hilarious viewing. British viewers will be shaking their heads in disbelief at the crazy decisions of the wannabe apprentices. But perhaps the most entertaining feature of the show will be watching the hopefuls squirm and squabble in the boardroom. It's here they will have to explain just why they've failed each task so badly. What drives people to take part in the show is difficult to say. Some are clearly motivated by the promise of a six-figure salary, and some claim they want the experience of working with a successful businessman, such as Sir Alan. One thing is for sure, the contestants will all gain some level of celebrity. The show is a regular ratings winner. And to date, there has been one big winner, and that is the show's creator, Mark Burnett. Originating in the US, The Apprentice's winning format has been copied all over the world. And with the hype surrounding this latest series, it looks as though the show will have success for many years to come.
That was News About Britain from bbclearningenglish.com. Hello, Sockham. Thank you for your question concerning two terms connected to pronunciation and spelling, namely homophones and homonyms. I'll start with homophones. These are words which have the same pronunciation, but which are different in both spelling and meaning. Listen to the following two examples and identify the homophones. I was amazed that I knew the answer to every question in the test. I bought a new car yesterday. Would you like to see it? So, the homophones are new, spelt K-N-E-W, and meaning that I had the knowledge of something, and new, spelt N-E-W, and meaning the opposite of old. Here are a few other homophones. Meet, spelt M-E-E-T or M-E-A-T. Road, spelt R-O-A-D and R-O-D-E. Bean, spelt B-E-A-N and B-E-E-N. Homonyms also have the same sound, but they also have the same spelling. Only the meaning is different. Identify the homonyms in these examples. When I was camping in the forest, I saw a brown bear, which actually rather scared me. I can't bear that noise anymore. I'm going to call the police. The homonyms are bear, spelt B-E-A-R, with the first meaning an animal that looks cute but is really rather dangerous, and the second meaning to tolerate something. Other examples of homonyms include fair, patient and coach. Just to finish, I'd like to say that homophones and homonyms often form the basis of simple jokes because they allow a play on words. That is, one sound may have two meanings, and this may create a joke. In case I'm not making myself clear, here are a few examples. I hope you find them funny. Waiter, waiter, what's this? It's bean soup. I don't care what it was. I want to know what it is now. John is so stupid. He thinks a tennis coach has 4 wheels. Well, how many wheels does it have? And finally, Doctor, help me quickly. I think I'm shrinking. I'm getting smaller. Help me. Well, first, you will have to calm down and learn to be a little patient.
Words in the News from bbclearningenglish.com.
Liechtenstein and Andorra are among 3 states designated as non-cooperative tax havens by the Paris-based Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. Monaco is the other one. They've all come under intense pressure to abandon long-standing bank secrecy rules ahead of next month's G20 summit of major economies in London. The meeting will debate plans to toughen the international response to banking centres seen as harbouring tax evaders. Liechtenstein has been in the spotlight since German investigators purchased financial records from a Liechtenstein bank employee. Those records revealed incriminating information about how thousands of Germans, including the former head of the German Postal Service, hid assets from the tax authorities at home. Liechtenstein has now agreed to support OECD guidelines on transparency and financial information exchange with foreign governments. It will start negotiations on bilateral tax information deals with Germany and Britain next month. Meanwhile, Andorra has agreed to abandon bank secrecy by next November in the hope of being removed from international blacklists. All this will increase the pressure on Switzerland, the most prominent nation with strict bank secrecy rules, to change its ways.